All right. So we're back, everybody. Edmund's in the call now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I myself, Brett, am here. I also want to welcome Justin.
What's up?
We've got Keith.
Hi, everyone.
And, of course, we've got a very special guest with us today. We've got the creator of The Binding of Isaac and co-creator of Super Meat Boy, Edmund McMillen.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the show. Excited to have you here. No problem. So basically, I wanted to start with sort of a hard-hitter question. We all know that the end of the world is coming in a few weeks. How do you think specifically that's going to affect the sales of The Binding of Isaac Rebirth?
I think sales will go up after the world ends.
It's relevant. It's a relevant game, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna bet against those odds. Say it will go up.
Awesome. So, Keith, you want to start off some general Binding of Isaac questions?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, we've got some questions from Redditors here. We picked and chose. I mean, hopefully we won't be asking you too many of the same questions that you may have heard in other interviews. We tried to filter those out a little bit, but I guess, you know, so Justin wrote an article a while back about, you know, sort of his interpretation, what he thought some of the themes in Binding of Isaac and maybe a couple of your other games were. And so you say you usually say that your games are left open to interpretation. Half the time when someone brings up what they think Binding of Isaac means, there's at least one or two responses of people say it doesn't matter, it's left open, it's interpretive. Do you ever have like a real theme in mind when you write the games? Do you maybe have multiple themes?
Well, when
is there a correct
with Isaac,
answer?
There is no correct answer, but so the person who wrote it is in here, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's me.
Justin. So where he was correct, because he didn't really address like story issues and that sort of stuff too, but it was more like a theme, and the theme actually went through a lot of different games, and it's more like of a subconscious theme that I started long ago that I realized as I was going, way early on, even when I was doing comics and stuff like that, that I identify with in a way and continue to kind of build on because I'm exploring a lot of different aspects of different things. But with Isaac, like when I started out, it wasn't like I knew exactly what the game was going to be. It was like I knew the kind of game I wanted to make. I knew I wanted to make a roguelike. Now, thematically though, I'm like, well, where do I go with this? Like, I want to make something like The Legend of Zelda. And The Legend of Zelda was like, it kind of like put me in that place when I was little where you explore. It was like this exploration game where everything is kind of in your imagination and you're turning over rocks and discovering, secret holes in the ground and all that sort of stuff too. And I wanted to do a reinterpretation of that game, but I wanted to make it my own, so I quite literally took that theme and applied it to myself, and we're like, well, what was I doing? I was doing all those things, but there was also other things going on there, and one of those things was religion. And at the time, I was kind of I have bizarre collections of things, and I collect like Christian propaganda, and there's a guy called Jack Chick who makes Chick Tracts. I don't know if you guys have heard of those, but they're these little religious pamphlets that are comics. Mm-hmm. And they basically like tell you why you're going to go to hell at the end. And I collect those, and I think they're great. And it was just at that time I was like, oh yeah, I want to make a game about my experience with religion and in kind of how it affected me as a kid. And like, how was I going to do that? Like, I don't know. Like, I really didn't know going in. That was the goal, and I'm moving towards that goal. But everything else that's kind of falling into place, it'll just be like I'll wake up with a few ideas that don't seem to connect exactly, but seem appropriate, and then I kind of find out how they connect to me and how they make sense. And then more appear, and then I reconnect those. It's kind of almost like dream logic in a way, where stuff is very disjointed and doesn't seem to make sense, but it has this eeriness to it that seems appropriate, and these dots just keep appearing, and then I just connect them as I go, and I end up in a way like when I'm working on something, like even like if I shouldn't talk about mew-genics now, but with mew-genics like
Just go ahead.
Like the overall theme of the game, I have a few very strong ideas and stuff that me and Tommy have been throwing back and forth that makes sense, but a lot of the theme of the game is very in the dark for me because I'm still exploring exactly what I'm saying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
sure.
with Isaac, I was as in the dark as everybody else who was playing it originally as I was developing it because I didn't have an answer. Like I was more or less having a conversation with myself and just thinking about all this stuff day to day for 3 months. You know, you eventually pushes you in a direction, and then I kind of release with, you know, quite a few questions. I have a few answers that I've acquired as I'm developing, you know, about what I'm saying, why I'm saying it, kind of like why am I the way I am, you know, like why do I have these hang-ups and obsessions, and you know, maybe I have the answer here somewhere. What I do is I push it out to everybody else, and then I'm able to see hear those same questions stated in a different way by other people, and then hear different answers in another way, and like it gives me perspective that I didn't have before because I've only, you know, experienced life once, and I don't have experiences other people have, and it's kind of like this weird conversation that I throw out there, and then people, you know, respond in many different ways, and then it starts becoming more clear to me. And, you know, as I was starting it, the game really came out as like, you know, me being upset with religion and kind of being angry about it and saying, you know, I've gained nothing from this except, you know, damage in all these different ways. But then I left realizing that the one thing my Catholic upbringing gave me growing up were all these really positive, inspirational moments that have to do with my creativity because as a kid, I knew this stuff, you know, wasn't real, but it was very inspiring and very creatively inspiring for me. And like all the themes that go through my games come from, you know, my religious upbringing and everything else like that. And in a lot of ways, like if I wasn't, you know, if I wasn't looked upon as the black sheep of my family because of my views that went counter to the religions that they expressed, then I would never feel as unique as I felt. And never be as inspired to feel like I need to do something or I'm special and this makes me special. So in a lot of ways, being an outcast, you know, in my family and within this, you know, religious bubble or whatever, made me feel bad, like a bad kid, but also good as a unique kid. So there's like this counter to it that I didn't fully realize until I made the game and put it out there and kind of saw it for what it was, which was cool. And that's
nice. Well, pain lends.
It's like
itself, go ahead, Justin.
strength through adversity kind of thing. It's very interesting because you can look at all kinds of things. I mean, I got a cry. This is a cry for help, and it's really interesting how you even preface it saying like this is really fucked up. But
yeah.
But I don't know. I really enjoyed those, and there weren't a lot of laugh out loud moments, but I couldn't put it down. And it was interesting to see how a lot of characters kind of resurfaced in your later games too.
Yeah, like putting that back together and releasing it was weird. Like a big part of me was like, this is embarrassing. This isn't funny. Like, you know, maybe it was funny when I was, you know, 15 or 16 years old, but it's not funny anymore. And why am I doing this? But like, there were still these themes in it that I felt like, and there's a part of me that just wanted to put it all out there because I made a deal with myself that I was going to put this together one day. Like I don't, that was a goal for me. Like my goal was that I was going to get published, you know, and then shortly after I stopped, you know, writing comics, I realized that they weren't good, and like they would never be kind of good enough to get published. And if I wanted them to be published, I had to get better. But by that time, I was moving into games, so it was just kind of an old thing.
get into a position where you could self-publish it. I wanted to ask you, so you mentioned that you sort of start off with something sort of small, and you have...
Yeah, like, you want the path. Like, in a lot of ways it was a response to the movie coming out, because when the movie came out, you get all these people that are like, that assume that Super Meat Boy is the one and only game I've ever made, even though the movie explains that it wasn't. But we get a lot of emails, it's like, I started my first game just like you did, and how did you do it, and blah, 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 blah. And I hate the illusion that it kind of creates that I just fell out of the sky and made Super Meat Boy. And I wanted people to show, like, I had a bunch of previous work, even though it wasn't good, I'm still proud of doing it and releasing it, and I feel at the very least it shows the roots, like where I took hold and kind of ran with a bunch of different things, and where when I was making those comics, I didn't think they were that funny even when I was making them, but like there was parts of them that I thought were interesting, and the same with games where I didn't even know what I was talking about. Like there's a specific comic that I read recently that I had no idea what I was talking about when I made it, and it's one of the last ones, and it's this comic about me in a park talking to a duck, and it makes no sense. But reading it again, it's like completely about me deciding whether or not I want to go to college, and feeling like life was just meaningless, and that I had no idea where I was going, and then wishing that I was had some sort of simple animal life, that I didn't have to worry so much about all the choices that I have to make in life, and I could just be a duck in a pond. But it's little things like that where I just kind of go through and be like, oh, okay, like I kind of understand why I am the way I am when I look through that sort of stuff, and I'm still trying to figure all that out now.
I noticed that sort of a common thing with a lot of your games, like Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac, is that there'll be like one, small gameplay mechanics, things like that, that you start off with, which makes it really intuitive, but they ultimately get, very deep. And do you think that's sort of a product of that kind of development style?
Yeah, possibly. I do tend to do start to finish work. I do think the way I develop games kind of changes how they are, because I'm not sure of this too. Like, it's funny because I know a lot of developers, but we don't ever really talk that much about process and stuff like that. I do know some people do it differently. Like, a lot of people are like, okay, let's flesh out the basics of each of the chapters, and they kind of have like an idea of what the whole game looks like. But with me, like, I can't do it that way because I lose a lot of inspiration when I see the end of the finished product.
Mm-hmm.
Like quite literally, like with Super Meat Boy, I had an idea of what the final chapters would look like and kind of where I wanted to go, but it wasn't set in stone at all. Because if I had mapped it all out on paper, I'd feel like it's this laborious thing that I have to do. Now I have to like rework every detail that I already wrote. You know what I mean? Like, I like to improvise as much as I possibly can, and this line of work isn't really complementary to improvisation, but I try to make it as much as possible, because without it I get really bored, and I tend to lose kind of inspiration. So I need to be in the dark for a lot of things, and I try to hold back and not think too much about all these different aspects of the game. Like even with mew-genics, like we're like 6 or 7 months in, and or not months, weeks, and we have a pretty good idea of where we want to go with this. But for the most part, a lot of places are dark still, and when we kind of move into them, we'll lighten them up and then realize what's there. And that's kind of how I approach all design, I think. I think there's a lot in improvisation and in not planning, even though it seems almost taboo with game design, because of course certain aspects you have to really plan. But I think there's something to that, and I think it's one of the reasons how, like, one of the things where like independent games are different than mainstream games. Like, independent games do have the ability to improvise. Mainstream games don't as much, because they've got to wrangle like 50 plus people, so you really need this regimen of like this is what's going to happen before it's even like tested. Like this is what's going to, that's where they all kind of get in trouble and end up making something that might actually not be that good without fully extensively testing it. And you've got a bunch of people that are like, this needs to be in because it's in the design document, and you kind of design yourself into a corner.
Yeah. Whoa, we can't put that in. I mean, we're near the end of
Yeah,
development.
exactly.
Whoa, you're going to take this part out? Someone's already developed all these assets for it.
There's a whole thing in mainstream too where everything has to be very, I mean, they're appealing to a very specific demographic, and they know that from the start, whereas a lot of indie development is they know what the developer wants to make, and that's that. Like, you're not selling to a specific group of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it'll appeal to who it appeals to. Hopefully
Yeah.
it'll find an audience.
I'm curious if there's anything that you wish you hadn't done development-wise with the Binding of Isaac, or anything you're gonna be changing for the Rebirth.
There's a lot of things that like I wish I would have done better, and I wish I had more control over. And a lot of it was like just flash limitations that kind of fuck things up, and not being able to fully see. Like, I hate talking about it because I don't want to feel like I'm knocking Florian in any way, because he's he's a really good programmer, and he's a really cool guy, but like the flash limitations and his limitations when it came to what we were working in, and the fact that we were working in ActionScript 2 making this, like a lot of people don't understand. This is the number one thing to remember, especially when realizing that we're doing a remake, is I was 100% positive that Isaac wouldn't sell. I was actually positive that I wasn't going to be able to put it on Steam or any other site. I thought I was going to give it away for free, and I thought I was possibly going to get a sponsor. Like, I was seriously considering selling the IP to one of two places for 40 grand, which would have been a horrible mistake, but
yeah,
it was worth the time. I only spent 3 months on it, and I really didn't... I liked what I was working on, of course, but I just didn't think people would like it. I didn't think people would buy it. It seemed too weird, the design seemed too hardcore, and I just didn't have that much confidence in it when it came to actually selling well. So I never planned on this. Like, I didn't plan on having this many people playing the game. So if I would have known that, like, that's my biggest regret. I would have... Obviously, I would have done the game with Tommy, like, it was... It's just... This was, like, out of the blue. Like, this was... Tommy went to Hawaii, and then while he's on vacation, I felt like I should have a vacation, too, for Meat Boy, because we just finished, and I'm like, well, I want to do something relaxing, so I want to do a game jam. And I ended up just doing a game jam with Florian, like, over a week, and the design was just too fun to put down, and we just kept going, and we worked on it for 3 months and released it. And
I wish I could create hit games while I'm relaxing.
I mean, copies in the bag.
I'd like to put something to that of like, not like, for like with Meat Boy, of course it was a very honest, like there was something to working on the Binding of Isaac where I didn't care about money. Like with Meat Boy, there's still a part of me that's telling myself, like, don't go too far. Don't get too relaxed and get too out there with the design. Like, don't push it. Don't go for an M. Don't offend too many people, and so on and so forth. There's definitely something in the back of my head that's saying, you're risking Tommy and your future. Don't fuck this up. Don't do something totally insane. And I did what I could get away with, or we could get away with. And with Isaac, I just didn't fucking care. Like, I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted. So, and this was a relaxing game that I wanted to just do for fun. So, it just did it. Just did it, and that's what came out. And I'm hoping, in a lot of ways, that might have been one of the aspects of its design that actually made it special.
Yeah. Was
kind of this just not caring at all about who plays it, not caring at all about, anything. Like, Tommy and I are working on, like, this next year is going to be crazy for us. I know that for a fact. And we're working on some stuff that is I have no idea how we're going to sell. And that's cool. That's exciting. And it's nice to, in a way, go into that danger zone again where, I'm forced to worry about something. And with Isaac, it was like, how am I going to sell this? Well, I don't know, but let's just finish it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember hearing you say a while back that you were working on Isaac pretty much just to practice with the roguelike formula. Now, were you talking about mew-genics back then?
No, because mew-genics just came out. That was another out of the sky thing. That was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I think it's been 8 weeks now.
Oh wow!
Doing it. So yeah, about eight plus weeks ago, we were part of that game jam. We're not actually a part of it. We mostly wanted to just jump back in and do a game jam, and it was a Ludum Dare jam, and the theme was like evolution or something, and I think one of the sub themes was cats, or 1,000 cats, or something like that. And we were like, 1,000 cats, how awesome would that be? And we're like, we're not actually a part of this, so let's just make a game about 1,000 cats. So we just sat down for what was it, 3 days or whatever that we were starting development, and just decided to develop this really weird cat game. And much like Isaac, the prototype was very fun. It was very intriguing, and I know we haven't shown anything about it yet, but once, hopefully, we can me and Tommy will come back on here in a month or two and start talking about it. But it just was awesome. So we decided, hey, let's do this. And it was funny too, because it was like we were kind of just jumping back into Super Meat Boy the game, and we're getting serious about that. And Tommy just finished the Tommyism 2 engine, which is what everything's running on. And we just got super sidetracked. Like, we were working on the next Meat Boy, but cat game, cat game. The cat game's fun, so we're gonna work on this now. And I think that's the way to do it. We have the ability to do this now. We don't have to worry too much about living paycheck to paycheck and pleasing people or getting shit done by whatever deadline. And so, me and Tommy have lots of cats, and we have that in common. We're definitely cat people, and this is a project that both of our strengths are being utilized, I think, pretty well. And I don't know if people are gonna like it that much. But
you said that about Isaac.
Yeah.
I did think that about Isaac, but I'm rolling the dice here, and my odds are getting less and less.
Well, I was curious. I mean, you've always said that YouTube and like the Let's Play community and the stream community really helped with getting Isaac awareness out there and making it popular. But so you anticipated it not really being liked at all. What do you think made it? I mean, beyond like the Let's Playing, like what about the game surprised you as being the reason people like it so much?
Well, yeah, I wrote about this in the postmortem I did recently, but like, I think the thing that I like that people like about it so much is this kind of like somehow this creative, like I think creative people really identify with the character, or at least one or two of the characters for some reason, and I think it's the kind of like the outcast black sheep kind of theme, and I think a lot of creative people can identify with that and kind of latch on and get creative themselves, and maybe the vagueness of the story or the vagueness of the character development kind of leaves it open so creative people can kind of put their own spin on it. And there's just so much art every day, so many like crazy videos, and people even do like ask, they play as the characters on Tumblr, and people ask questions and they respond with like animated GIFs and drawings. It's just really cool, and I guess something about the game really kind of spoke to those people, and it's inspiring to me to see that stuff, because it really does motivate me and make me want to do more stuff. There's few things now that like really motivate me other than my own personal motivation and my I'd say it's unhealthy at this point, obsessive work ethic, which I can't seem to stop working. But yeah, I definitely get inspired when I see. Like it's hard for me not to want to do more Isaac when I see some really cool drawings or really creative ideas and stuff that people are kind of putting online and being like, oh, like this is a world that I don't necessarily want to close up right now, because it seems so inspiring to people, which is cool. But now I have the excuse to actually go back in and fix things and work on it more.
Now you're working with the guy who made the Cave Story remake for the 3DS, I think it is.
Yeah, Tyrone Rodriguez.
Right.
Fantastic
Are there
choice,
confirmed?
by the way.
Yeah, definitely. Are there confirmed platforms for it yet, or?
I think PC is confirmed, and I'm pretty sure PlayStation 3 and or Vita are confirmed.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Should be exciting.
because Sony was like, we don't care, like, we want it. They were like the ones that were really, really adamant about it from the very beginning, where they were just all about it. They were like, we just want you to know whatever you're doing with Isaac, we will support it, and they need stuff, let's face it.
Yeah, especially for the Vita. But we won't go there.
Thank you.
Oh, I know,
It's
you're
taking
gonna
up
be...
space.
You're vicariously dusting off thousands of Vitas across the nation.
How much creative control do you have over the remake? What ways do you think you might be limited in influencing it?
I have 100% creative control. It's in the contract.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Excellent.
I do. It's yeah. What I say goes. With anything but platform, like, well, not even that. I still have creative control with that. Like, they were like, we want to try and do, an iPhone version. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna play well. And they're like, well, it's your call. Like, if it sucks, then we won't do it. But they want to prototype it, so I'm willing to. They're investing a lot of money in this. I'm not. Like, realistically, they're the ones investing the money. They're investing the time. Well, I've got to, basically, I approve everything. Even with the stuff that you've been seeing online and stuff. That's essentially like every 2 or 3 days I'll get an email with a bunch of mock-ups of different things in Isaac, and I'll be like, yes, that looks good. Yes, that doesn't look good at all, and this needs work, and this needs this, and this needs this. So, right now, my input is of course there, and I have final say in everything, in every aspect of the game. And once the game is fully working on the new engine that they're doing, then I'll kind of jump in and start giving them, all the new stuff. Basically, I want the foundation in place before we get ahead of ourselves. So, essentially, they're going to be remaking Isaac with Wrath of the Lamb with a few tweaks to things, and then I'll jump in and make it much bigger.
That's exciting. Now, the graphical style. What was the inspiration behind that?
There were a few different things. One of them was just that, I don't know. I don't want to. So, if I'm doing a remake, I want to be able to enjoy working on it. And for right now, it just looks old to me. It looks stale, and I'm over it. Mm-hmm. And working with Tyrone, he's got all these artists at his disposal, and I'm like, well, I'd really love to see graphic changes, because that's what he's basically done for all the games that he's worked on, like all these graphic updates. And I would like to have the opportunity to do that. I've never done that before. I've never had the opportunity to work with anybody but one other person who's a programmer. So, I want to see something look different, for the most part. And I'm not a great artist. I'm not really that great of an illustrator or animator. And there's a good possibility that these guys are much better than me, and there's more of them than me, and they can get things done faster and more efficiently. And I thought it would kind of be funny to do a demake, because everybody else does HD, and
yeah,
I don't really do pixel graphics, so you know, these guys are very experienced in it. So I thought, you know, maybe take the opportunity. They're investing the money, so let's see if they can make something look really cool. And you know, after a few screenshots and edits and everything else, it started really moving in a solid direction that I really like a lot. And I think for the most part, it'll really look like a new game, but still feel like Isaac and look for the most part like Isaac. I think it'll be still very familiar, but leave you wondering, you know, what's the Duke of Flies going to look like.
Yeah.
I guess you already, because there's a screenshot of him, but you know, it'll leave people wondering, because it's like, I'm excited about it now, so I know for a fact there'll be other people who'll be like, well, I wonder what the, you know, that item looks like, or what that effect looks like, or whatever else. It keeps it from going stale. And like I said before, like, I need inspiration when I'm working on something, and I need, you know, stuff that I don't know is going to happen. And it's cool to be in the dark about a lot of the art stuff, and it's cool to be able to see a new game form. You know, I need that kind of motivation to continue to work on it too.
I have to say, you know, we've been following your form spring, and when you announced that it would be 16-bit graphics, like, some people were like, boo, and other people were like, yeah, and like, people kept asking about it over and over and over again, saying like, why? And you're just like, listen, eventually you're just like, listen, I think it looks awesome. We're doing it my way.
Yeah, well, it's like, I knew people were going to, you know, have a little hissy fit about it if I just said it, and that's why I wanted to get further in the concept stuff, in order for people to like see, like, you know, because when I went in, I'm like, I told Tyrone, I said, maybe it's not worth it. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I can do this, because like, realistically, with all the stuff that I'm working on with Tommy this year, there is no way I can set aside that amount of time to make shitloads of like new art. Like, it's just not possible. So, what, you know, how am I going to do this? Like, it's so, but I wasn't sure, and I was like, well, if every fucking person says that they hate this and they can't stand the style, then, you know, maybe we postpone it, you know, 6 months or whatever, and then after I'm done with a bunch of stuff this year, maybe I can take the time to work on the new bosses and items and everything else. No, I'm not really into it. But I posted it, and that's why we did the fucking poll that cost me $200 for no goddamn reason. That site is such
Oh my god.
yeah, like, so yeah, you sign up for that goddamn site, and I put the poll up, and it's like free or whatever, and then after 100 people vote on it, it shuts it down and says you cannot look at results until you pay, and the annual fee is $100. It's like, come on. That was a bad investment on my part. I'll try to use that thing again. I don't know.
Just to justify it.
Yeah, I kind of came out of the blue. I'm like, well, shit, I've already linked it. I'm not going to do this again. I'll just fucking pay. I don't care. But, yeah, but for the most part, I was just like, I knew people were going to react negatively, because regardless of, it could look like the most amazing pixel art in the world, and people would still say, no, I like it the way it is, you know, because so many people attach to something that's familiar. Like, I saw it with every damn game that ever got remade graphics-wise. Like, even Spelunky, people were like, diehard fans were like, fuck you! Really? Don't touch the art! It looks horrible!
God.
From a technical standpoint, like, the art was great and much better. Like it's, I read something online, a review of Spelunky, that they said that it looked like the art was phoned in, and it was like, are you fucking?
What does that mean?
Like, work you had to put into the remade art, as opposed to this really low resolution pixel art. It was just like, Jesus Christ! Yeah. But people do that. Like, they latch onto something, and they're like, I want it the way it is, and don't change it. And you know, sometimes you gotta just shake things up a bit, I guess.
We saw the poll, and I think, you know, given the general amount of discontent over anything on the internet, I think it did pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised. I expected more of a backlash. I still get, there are like 3 people, like distinct people. There's one guy who emails me, one guy who forms, one guy who tweets at me, who says they hate the new style, and please, they'll do anything for me to do all the art for it and whatever else, or please do an alternate style. Like, it's frustrating sometimes because a lot of the questions on forum stream I just don't answer because they're just mind-numbingly awful. But
it's all the same guy anyway.
I wouldn't doubt it, but it's surprising how little thought is put into everything. And, benefit of the doubt, these kids are probably like 9 or 10 years old, but there are people who are like, why are you being so lazy? Why don't you just do the 2 art styles?
Ugh.
Like, oh, so we pay all these artists art, and then I also get to work for 6 months on this. Thanks. So what do we gain here? We gain this one guy is a little more happy. I don't even understand what the logic is. There's absolutely no logic in that. Like, I'm going to spend more time and more money on something in order to appease a few people who really don't care.
I know.
That's why I put that on the thing. Don't care. That was like one of the options. Don't care. That should have been number 1, but people like to care. People like to
don't vote if they don't care.
I'll admit I was apprehensive of the style, but I mean I wasn't tweeting at you saying how much I hated it. But I think that animated GIF you posted the other day looked great.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, no, it's getting there for sure. Like,
yeah, definitely.
There's some tweaks and stuff that I want to do. Like, I think Isaac's basically there. Like, I really like some of the shading that they did on his like further away leg. I want more of that on like under his head, so his head and like neck area looks dark.
Oh, those are the first things I noticed.
There's something about his head too. Like, I do like the original one where the head was bigger and the eyes were bigger was actually something I said for them to do because I was trying to figure out like how many pixels do we actually have to do little details on these characters when we do the facial stuff. So I wanted the head to be bigger than basic Isaac was in the original game as a functionality thing. Like, I wanted you to be able to see the items and stuff on him. It did look a little odd, and they're still tweaking the size of the eyes. The eyes are a bit smaller now, and the head isn't. I think it's like 1 pixel smaller or something. But, yeah.
So it was appropriate because on the stream I was just in the arcade recently. So people on Reddit rave over the game. There's one thing that they don't like, and that's spending a lot of time in the arcade. They were wondering if there's going to be anything to mitigate that. Like, they had ideas like, well, it could be... I know a lot of them would be hard to implement, but, like, you could hit it from the left, and it'll, play with 5 coins and stuff like that.
Yeah, those are... I will fix that. That's one of the things on my list that it's like, I didn't even... Okay, so when making it, it was like, okay, yeah, of course, gamble room or whatever. And I put it in because I'm not a guy that gambles. But I like the idea of that. And then looking over and seeing my wife, Danielle, just sitting there for 20 minutes, like, hitting it repeatedly, I'm like, oh, no. Like,
what have I done?
This isn't good at all. I can say that I probably will raise the chance of it breaking, which was something that I wanted to do. But like I said before, like, it was very hard for me to control these things, and even with Florian and Flash and everything else, like, I couldn't go into the code and look at it, understand it, because half of it was actually in German. Like, he seriously, half of his code is in German. But
that's great. That's
so it wasn't easy to tweak this stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, make it a 0.5% chance, and he's like, okay, and then I'm tweaking, and I'm like, well, that seems wrong, and then after a while, I just like, it's fucking fine, just it as it is. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But yeah, I do have. Okay, so there's a major gameplay change that will fix people dawdling and spending too much time in the level. I'll say that.
Twinfinite exclusive.
There are a lot of things, and that was... See, that's the thing, like, that was a feature that was actually going to be in the main game that didn't get put in because of technical issues with what we wanted to do, and that's something we can do very easily. Like, I'm going to put a focus, or not a focus as much as I'm going to put more thought into and have more mechanics based around time spent in the levels and time spent overall in the game. If that makes sense.
Cool,
Awesome.
cool.
So
So you think after you add the extra levels at the end, you're still going to be shooting for like about an hour for a total playthrough?
yeah, if anything, the new version will encourage players to play a little faster than usual. Possibly, maybe not much though. But yeah, no, it's I mean, I can tell you where it's going. Like, no, maybe I shouldn't.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
Indulge.
Well, I think it's quite obvious to most. There, you've got two very clear. You've got one path that splits, right at the end, and then one of those ends has a little further of a path. So I got to balance that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That should make sense to most of it. Yeah. So that's my main focus as far as like really fleshing the full length of the game out to make it evenly balanced and make more choices. Like one of the major flaws of the game that I wanted to focus on was like, once you get to that split where you want to go up or down, like you don't really usually have a reason to go down.
Uh-huh.
So I wanna play around with that more.
Interesting.
So
Maybe you should start having Isaac answer questions, and depending on your answer, it affects the end of the game. Sort of like the Paragon Renegade in Mass Effect.
I've never played a Mass Effect. I bought one. I think I own a copy of Mass Effect 2 maybe, or 1, I don't know. And I just couldn't get through the dialogue trees in the beginning and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I was only kidding.
I'm like, come on, let's
So sick
shoot
of those.
some stuff. I saw aliens and guns. What the fuck?
I feel like there's an obsession with player choice. And
Cool if done right, like in the Walking Dead games. So another question from the Redditors. Everyone was very interested in custom content. So, in games like Time Fuck and games like Super Meat Boy, you were always very you put in some sort of players had the ability to make maps, right? So that people were wondering if there'd be any custom content. Maybe people could do custom runs in Binding of Isaac, similar to the challenge maps.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I do notice, of course, everybody playing it now who's already beat the game, they're all doing the custom run stuff, which I think is really cool.
Mhm.
But I'm just not so from a design perspective. When I do custom runs, which there'll be more of course, in the expansion, I want there to be a legitimate reward for beating them. So when you do XYZ run, you get rewarded with an item for doing it. So there's a reason for you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't make shitloads more items. So I don't know. I don't know about the custom run thing. Like I'm not sold on it. Like I don't know if it will really, because all it's doing. This is the reality of it. Is all you guys are doing is like wanting to hack the game and have items at start.
yeah.
That's the realistic thing, and that actually does break the game. So it destroys what I want to do. So I don't like that idea. So custom runs and that sort of stuff will definitely not happen. But there is a feature that we're playing with that I wanted to put in the game that we couldn't do, that touches on it a little bit. I actually think it's a much cooler idea. I can't talk about it, so it's more of a tease than anything else.
Ooh.
I think people who want custom runs will be very happy with this feature. But in a lot of ways, it can be a kind of a challenge, if that makes sense.
Cool.
It's definitely going to be more of a challenge than I got OP. Like I'm going to start out with all the best items.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Also, if you can make custom runs, it would really expedite that sort of like Wikipedia filling up with all the information about every aspect of the game.
Yeah, which is cool and not cool. I have a love-hate relationship with, because that's another request. Like, I think it was like one of the most requested things on the poll, which was cool that I added that. Like, what do you want? Because we were like, I want a Wikipedia thing telling me what all the items do. And it's like, well, that totally destroys everything I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But it's funny because there are two ways to play the Binding of Isaac. There is going in blind, which is how it's intended, and for you to learn and experiment with all the different items to figure out what they do. And then two is go on Wikipedia or go on the wiki and learn what all the items do and know exactly what they do, and then play it like you're a hardcore expert. I don't care what you do, but I did design the game with experimentation and is the number one thing. Like I want you to go in and that's the magic. Like that's you see people like Let's Playing for the first time who've never played the game and like realizing the formula for finding a secret room, or realizing that like the Book of Revelations calls the horseman, that sort of stuff, or realizing the Bible kills mom. Like that's magic. Like that's what I've made the game to do. Like for you to be like, oh shit. The internet does kill that, but people who have self-control don't need to do that. They can play the game how it was intended. So, no, I'm not going to put any kind of Wikipedia thing in there to explain what everything does.
Good.
Well, I think it's kind of funny. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Keith.
All I was going to say is that you mentioned exploration, and that's something that you were really interested in. And I agree. I think that's something that's missing in a lot of games these days. And I know, because of the internet primarily. Is there any way from a development standpoint to combat that? To enforce exploration? Randomization obviously is a big thing in the Binding of Isaac, and I think the secret undisclosed game possibly.
Yeah.
Any other ways?
I think there's a lot of ways to approach exploration. Like all the games that Tommy and I are working on are going to be like that. Like I like to teach the player the most important life lessons that I have ever learned in my 32 years of being alive, which is that you learn the best by exploring it yourself and figuring things out yourself, and not by just being told.
Mm-hmm.
Like you learn way better with hands-on and actually doing it. Like you can go to all the art schools in the fucking world, and I don't care who you are. Like I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It was about magic actually, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, how come you don't work for Wizards of the Coast? And they're like, well, they only hire people who, have a lot of schooling. And I'm like, but you're like one of the most knowledgeable people I've ever heard of when it comes to magic. Like it seemed like a no-brainer for you. Why would you want to hire this guy who just got out of high school, or not high school, but college with all these degrees or whatever else? Or this person who has like this infinite amount of experience with hands-on with the product, with whatever it is. It's completely illogical. And I came to that realization while I was going through college, or taking a few college classes at community college, where I was in this 3D Studio Max class, and we were showing our final projects, and this guy went up, and it was just the most ungodly monster project. It was horrible. It was just this horrible, laughable thing I made. And the guy was really weird too, and he seemed broken. Like a lot of people who go to community college. But I remember him because he had hair growing out of his nose. Like it was really odd. And I remember thinking, and I remember him like passing with like a B or whatever, and then I did get an A in that class, and I remember thinking, this is fucking retarded. Like this, so we're gonna end up, I'm gonna come out of this, and I'm gonna have the same piece of paper that this guy has, and that's gonna qualify us. Like it's like, what the fuck is this? Like this is garbage. Like, and I left school, and I made comics and fucking made crappy websites that eventually turned into games and so on and so forth. But I just feel like people learn hands-on. Like that's the way to do it. You do it yourself, you figure it out yourself. It's good to have a leg up and have somebody teach you the basics of how something works, but it's way more important and just way more there's more substance to it. You get more from the experience when you're doing something hands-on than you would if somebody's just teaching you how to do it. And when I design something, I design it in a way that forces the player to explore and asks them, and basically approaches them and says, listen, you're not an idiot. Like, I know you're not an idiot, so I'm not going to treat you like an idiot. I'm not going to talk to you like you're a baby who doesn't understand, how to play a video game. I'm going to put you in, and I'm going to give you enough pieces of the puzzle for you to want to put them together, and you're going to put them together yourself and figure it out. And I think it's a really responsible way to do it. I think more people get more out of the game when people do it that way. I've done it with almost every game that I've worked on, and I hope to get better at doing it. But that's kind of how I approach design, and I think it's a good way for a lot of people to approach design, where just give them. I know a lot of people do. Like, you look at Braid, like John Blow does this all the time too. Like I think a lot of really good indie developers do this. They don't. Like Splunky did it too. They don't talk down to the people that are playing their game. You're an idiot. Don't jump on those spikes. You'll die. Like, yeah. Like, yeah. But yeah, that's how I approach design. I think it's a good way to approach design, and I will continue to do that. It would be nice if more did, but
yeah,
realistic. Large companies do think about the audience as like, we better make it so no one can fuck up on this. Like, we better really detail it out and explain every little thing and force you to go through this 2-hour tutorial to make sure that you learn every little aspect and destroy all magic, all the unknown stuff that you have to do yourself and figure it out. Like, I want those moments, those connections that people realize, like, oh shit, the secret room is always in the area that has the most connections to it. Like that, whoa! Like that, you feel smart. Like, you feel like, oh, I've solved the big problem here. Like, oh shit, I just realized how that works. Or even the more simple stuff, like realizing that every floor has a treasure room, and realizing that that's what you need in order to really get bigger and better. Like, that's your level up. You need to find that treasure room, then you go to the boss room. Like, just that little stuff that you don't even think about, because I think most people that have played that don't even think about it at all. But that stuff is so important. Like, letting them make a mistake and just being okay with them making the mistake, because you know that they're going to fix that next time. They're going to realize it. It's going to click. Like, they're going to get it. Yeah, all that stuff is important. Very important.
And that ties in exactly with the whole putting a Wikipedia thing in the game. Like, that takes away the whole idea of trial and error, and then it removes that. Once you figure it out, you don't have that same sense of satisfaction. And I think it's funny how a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, I put 200 hours into this game, and now I'm bored with it, so put in a customization. It's like, well, that's probably the most value you've gotten for, $7 or $8, for a game ever.
God, make the game less boring. Wasted 200 hours.
Well, I've actually had emails that I think recently, because of the remake and stuff. Yeah, this was a real email. I bought the game when it was on sale for $2, and I've played it for 60 hours, and now I hear you're doing a remake. Way to cut and run on that.
I saw that.
It almost seemed like a joke, because then why would you tell me how much you played it and how much you paid for it? Like, you paid for it for 60 hours or whatever, and you're telling me I'm ripping you off by in a year releasing a remake
on different platforms.
Like, I don't understand.
Maybe it's time you start punishing the players. That's terrible.
So, can you tell us anything about? I mean, I know obviously a lot of this is something that players should find out themselves. But can you tell us anything about the differences in story that's important to a lot of people? And you mentioned that there will be another level on top of the final level of this game. Will it be a happy ending?
On paper, I don't have an ending, so I don't know. I will figure that out as we go. I have a few very specific mental images of things that I want to do and directions I want to go, but I can't talk about those because. Okay, I will say this: my goal for this one. So okay, the counterpoint to me saying this is how I want the game to be played was that after seeing the Wikipedia, basically break the game apart and detail every little aspect of it, even to the point of them figuring out percentages, which I believe they must have just hacked the game apart to find. But I I really want to add something, maybe a few things that are just buried so deep that people don't find them for a while.
That's fantastic.
Which in a way like kind of makes this, you know, ARG type effect. And there was definitely a lot of that happening with Wrath of the Lamb, where I'm like reading the Wikipedia and I'm like, nobody's found Daddy Longlegs left yet. Or then I realize it's because he's not in the game and I need to fix it. But there's a lot of that where I'm like, you know, nobody found this and nobody found this, and I'm just going through and being like, you know, I wonder when they're going to discover what this does, and it made it fun for me to kind of see people progress through the game, and I definitely want to go a little further with that, and I have a few ideas of how to do that. So, you know, it's just a new thing I get to experiment with, like try to this kind of like almost community interaction with the game that doesn't necessarily, you know, bust anything for anybody else.
Yeah. Whatever you do, just make sure it totally trashes Justin's article. And any sort of theories that he had, you know.
Yeah, we'll do. That's my new goal.
I was really curious about the stats screen, because when you press start, it obviously shows your stats, but those don't always represent the overall what you've got, because I know a lot of them actually exceed what you've got and with the multipliers and whatnot. Do you have any plans to like actually show the player what their true stats are?
Kind of like the vagueness. So like, I don't know if you guys know, but I might as well just say it, that the way the stats work, and this had to do with balancing, because in the original game you could get incredibly overpowered or underpowered at times. We use like this soft padding, which is basically once your stats are maxed out, you can still get more. It doesn't show you, but you can go beyond what the checks are, and but each time is like diminishing, like having it like it's like 0.5 and then 0.25, like on damage or whatever. So you can get those multipliers go up, but they're less and less and less in order to pad, you know, the maximum damage, because in the original like build, you could get to Mom and like have the most giant tears you could ever imagine flying across the screen, because you could just get lucky and get all these like damage up, and then get like a multiplier, and then you've just incredibly overpowered. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I haven't really thought about exactly what I want to do with that. I kind of like the vagueness of it. I don't know if it's a huge deal or not, and I haven't really put that much thought into it. You're the first person to make me think about it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's cool to get all these damage up things, not really know how much damage you're going to do, and then you get to a boss and kill him in like 3 shots. So that's cool, but then it's also cool to actually know what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It kind of,
I'm not a huge fan of numbers. I do think like showing numbers kind of ruins the magic. Like that's why I went with check marks instead of, you know, 10,000 damage or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't think I'd change that.
How about soul hearts?
Soul heart. Oh, when they go off the screen.
Yeah.
That was a bug.
Really?
That we didn't. Yeah. You weren't supposed to be able to have more than what you can see.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I couldn't imagine some runs with less than what I had. I mean.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I might keep it the same. I kind of like that too. I like the mystery and like, wait, you know, how many soul hearts do I have going off the screen? There's no good way to do it. Much like the fix with the fortune teller or the slot machine. Like, how do I do that? Like, how do I make it so I would love for you to be able to go up and if you have a shitload of coins, say, I want to bet 5 coins and raise my odds. You know, that would be nice, but there is no good way to do that in the game. Like, there's just no good way to do it. Like, yeah, maybe the best fix would be to have like one side be 5 and one side be 1, but then what if a guy backs into the 5 side when he has a bunch of coins? Like, I've accidentally put 1 penny in a machine many times. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think that's worth it either, and I do have other ways to do it, so I can fix it different ways. But I just try to remove any kind of like how the fuck am I, like, what am I gonna do? Like, put a little times 10 on the side of the blue hearts, and then, you know, no, it just seems like I'll stick with the mystery of. I'll definitely make it so you can still get hearts that go off the screen, but I don't think it needs a visual representation.
Yeah. Cool.
It might just look weird.
So, Justin or Keith, did you have any questions? Final questions that you wanted to ask? Because I was going to field some questions from the chat.
Yeah, a couple general questions. So you've participated in several Humble Indie bundles. How did you come to work with them? Did they approach you? Did you approach them? And obviously they're very successful at raising money for charity, and they're really popular among fans, but can it be profitable for the developer as well?
So I knew the Wolfire guys because we both released games around the same time. So Gish and what was the original Overgrowth called? What was it called? Oh, Luguru, yeah. Came out around the same time, like old indie back in the day.
Yep.
2003 or whatever. And so I knew of them, and then when they were started working on Overgrowth many years ago, they just kind of, it's like, whoa, like these guys are crazy tech guys and seemed really smart overall. And there's a funny story to it. So we were like one of the first people to be contacted about the very first Humble Bundle with Gish, because we were kind of friends, like they came to my 30th birthday, or no, what, the 29th birthday? No, how many years has it been? Has it been, Humble Bundle's been around for 3 years?
Probably 3 years.
It's between 3 and 4, I think.
What have they done, 6 now? Are they on the main ones, I guess?
3 years. Oh yeah, because we bought I finally got a new car off the first one. But yeah, so 3 years, and it was just like, hey, we have this idea, but we basically don't know. Like, basically, they're asking a bunch of developers, like, are you willing to give your game away for possibly free? We have this experiment, and they said that they say, like, at most we think we can sell 40,000 copies. That was what it was. I was
That's
like, all right,
nuts.
well. So you run the risk of, like, you can't say it's losing money because you're not really losing. No one's taking money away from you, but it's possible sales. And I think we just put Gish up on Steam like a year before that, and it was like, well, you know what, fuck it. Like, we'll help you out. We'll do this, and we gave them Gish, and there was a few other games in it as well, including their game, and it ended up just exploding.
Yeah,
it was just a huge thing. So yeah, I'm close with the Humble Bundle guys. I think things have changed a bit since they've got like outside funding or whatever the hell they said that they had got. But yeah, because like you're seeing bundles all the time and everything else, and for the most part, yeah, I think most developers are quite happy with the money that they get out of the bundles, and it makes it worth it. And I've noticed some interesting. It's like it's kind of almost in a way like a bit of a stimulus for sales. Like it seems illogical, but like with Super Meat Boy or whatever, when it finally got a Humble Bundle on our year anniversary, like for the months after that, it actually stimulated sales, because logically, what actually happens is you get 400,000 more people who are playing your game. And everybody's seeing them play your game, and they're doing Let's Plays, and they're talking about your game, and it's becoming relevant again because so many people are playing it, like as many or more than launch. So you get this stimulus to your sales.
Yeah, and it actually.
I think
I'm sorry. Go on.
Definitely evens out. It'd be nice if we could actually write off some of the charity stuff, but I think for the most part people are quite happy with. They fixed a lot too. Like they were still experimenting with, like, how do we get people from paying a penny? How do we get people to pay more? And I think they've nailed it down now, where like you've got to pay at least $5 to get Steam versions, and you got to pay at least $1 in order to get any of the games now, and so on and so forth. So I think they've definitely fixed a lot of the issues with it. They're running out of games at this point, realistically.
I know.
Like, there are these really awesome indie games that put in bundles that people care about, so they have to kind of, I think, innovate around that. But they seem to be pretty good at that, and they're obviously really smart guys.
How much more time do you have, by the way? No pressure. Just curious before I ask other questions.
I've got nothing. I mean, I got half an hour more, I guess.
Okay, that's reasonable.
I've already eaten dinner.
I was gonna ask. So you've both participated as a judge at the IGF, right? International Game.
Yeah.
Sorry, Independent Games Festival. And you've been an entrant. You've won it. So I guess you're probably pretty. You might know a lot about the indie game scene, and I was wondering if there's any other indie developers that you think maybe have not gotten their due that you'd like to promote.
Honestly, like, they all get their due. Like, it's nice now to see Cactus finally making money after doing this for so many years, and being like a very loud voice in the indie scene. Like, everybody knows him, and he's been so prolific for so many years, and he's finally making now money off of it. It's something that I've been pushing him to do. I'm like, listen, I have some contacts at Steam. I can get you in, and what do you got? And originally it was the game that he won with in the IGF before tuning, and then but then this one came out, and Hotline Miami is really awesome, and it's even better. And it's awesome to see. Everybody gets their chance. That's the thing. Like, there was a large point in time where I was like, fuck, like all of my peers are millionaires. What the fuck am I doing? Like am I just flash games forever or what? Like, like I've gotta win them. I've gotta do it. Like, and I really do think that I think that no matter who you are, if you pay your dues and you put in your time and you're an awesome, prolific person who's just putting their heart into what they're doing, you're gonna get what you deserve in a way. So yeah, I don't. There's nobody in particular that I could say. I mean, yeah, it's like all the people that I'm thinking about now. They've all basically like Terry and Cactus. They've all gotten there, and they're continuing. And yeah.
Go into gaming.
I think everybody gets there eventually. I think anybody who it feels like they're not getting the attention that they deserve, try to be as critical as you can about your work. There was this list. It was kind of like a BBS, but via email. It was a list of developers. It's still going. It's like thousands of developers that are all like kind of talking to each other. Originally, it was made to help business side of things, to make sure that any indies didn't get fucked over. Because back in the day, the mainstream would really just destroy indies, and there was a company who wanted to do a PSP port of Gish, who attempted to swindle us and try to get full rights and copyright ownership of the game for $5. It was actually an extension. We had a lawyer look over it, and we're like, what the fuck is this? And it wasn't uncommon. Like, you get a lot of people who never get paid for their work and stuff like that. So that was originally what it was done for, and then as time passed, it became what me and Tommy called like the indie bitch list, which is a place everybody complained about, why Xbox sucked and why Sony sucked and whatever else after they got rejected for whatever reasons. And it's nice to be able to do that, but the sad thing is no one was realistic about it, because no one wanted to hurt anybody's feelings. Mm-hmm. And the realistic thing here is if you put it, like, if you're making games and you feel like, hey, I'm upset that all these people are getting recognized, and I want to get recognized too, and I feel like I deserve it. No doubt that you might, but keep in mind that, like, I did this for 8 years before I made anything, really. Mm-hmm. Like, I was living month to month until Super Meat Boy released. Like, I had nothing. I had nothing. I was just doing what I did and having fun doing it. But it took many, many years. It took a great deal of really, really hard work, and it took a lot of very critical analysis of what I was doing. Where do I need to improve, and how do I need to get better, and how can I actually market the shit that I'm peddling? How am I supposed to market a naked child, crying?
Well, Nirvana did it.
any kind of profit. You know what I mean? Like, and you've got to wear a lot of hats. Like if you're independent, you're playing the role of a team of people, and you've got to have some business sense. You've got to have some ambition to make some money, and you've got to understand, you know, what you need to do in order to get where you want to be, and a lot of that really comes from just realizing that you're not that good and you need to improve. And yeah, it's my little pointer for anybody in the just starting out who feels, because I know that happens a lot. Like, there's no doubt that, like, there's been many times where I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Years, who the fuck is this guy? Where'd he come from?
Stephanie Meyer, like, Twilight.
Sometimes people get lucky, you know. That's definitely a thing. Sometimes people get lucky. Sometimes people get very unlucky, and they just don't. But for the most part, I think even the unlucky ones that really make awesome stuff get the recognition that they deserve eventually.
Justin, do you have any other questions?
I've got one more I wanted to ask is, so I read that you're really into Spelunky now, and we know that you like to play like old school Nintendo when you were younger, but were there any games that you were really into when you were a young adult, like in the early 2000s period?
Let's see. I'd say the biggest ones for me in like the late 90s, early 2000s that I was still playing and/or and they were still kind of old. I think they were mid-90s. The ones that I remember PC-wise were Fallout, Fallout 2, and the original Diablo.
Nice.
And those are... Oh, and, well, that... I'm going too far back. I was going to say XCOM, but that's older. But, yeah, I mean, Fallout 1, 2, XCOM, and the original Diablo were, like, really huge and influential games for me in that late mid-90s period. I think it was like 96 when I was playing all that stuff. I'm trying to think of 2000s. Well, that was GameCube time, right? So, what was I doing? That was, what the fuck was I doing? Playing Pokemon?
Do you like the modern Zeldas or anything?
I know, I was... Oh yeah, Wind Waker. Yeah, I played, yeah. Like, I mean, I played all the good games, you know, played all those big games from them, but, like, yeah, no, like, the original Pokemon on the Game Boy, I just, okay, here's a thing for Pokemon, okay?
Yes.
If you approach Pokemon, and not many people had this opportunity, but I approached Pokemon with my cousin. We knew jack shit about this, okay? It had just come out, and we kind of jokingly said, how retarded is this? It's this game about all these little creatures or whatever, and you have to catch creatures. We're ha ha ha. And then we both buy it, and we start playing it, and we're playing it without knowing anything, okay? We didn't know anything about anything. No stats, no nothing, no evolutions. We were in the dark completely. That fucking game was the most magical game ever, and that was my cousin, and battled him without knowing anything about anything was fucking badass, and I loved every minute of it. It was just like I remember he didn't sleep for 2 days straight because I remember I woke up and he's like, I got an Abra. I'm like, he's like, it evolves into this fucking huge thing. I'm like, what? And then we're like fighting each other, and he just destroys me with Psychic or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god. But yeah, it was like that game. It becomes a joke at this point because it's Pokemon or whatever. But when you remove the knowledge of all the stats of all the characters and what they evolve into and whatever else, and you don't have any knowledge of that game and you jump into it, that game is really good, really really good, like total magic, like great. And that was actually one of those, late 90s experiences for me that was definitely memorable. And because of that, I still will buy all the Pokemons, at least all the core Pokemon games, because to some degree I want to try to recapture that. Because even when like Gold and Silver came out, I played it with my wife, and it was still pretty fucking awesome. Oh, yeah. But yeah.
I've got one last burning question that I'm sure Justin would love to hear the answer to as well. What did you think of Skyward Sword if you played it?
I didn't.
Oh, good.
That's the horrible fact.
No,
the fact that I played every Zelda. And I played them to hell. And I just didn't care.
It's not good.
I did not care for it at all. It was my least favorite Zelda, I think, except maybe like Zelda 2.
Yeah, I see, but I went through Zelda 2 recently, and I have like a newfound respect for it after playing it more and getting further than... I would always hit this dead end when I was younger, and that's why I hated it. And I got further with it, and I realized that the combat in it was actually quite good and pretty well thought out. And I respect that. But no, I haven't even played it yet, and I have a Wii U, and I debated getting it, but I didn't, and I don't know if I'll ever... There's just a point for me, and I don't even know if it's because I'm a game developer and I play games and make games and games, but I've gotten to this point where it's like, I need something... It's got to be big for me to get up and go and turn on the console.
Yeah.
It's got to be a thing. Like, I put off buying the Wii U. We ended up buying it simply because our niece and nephew were going to come over, and we were like, well, what's something for them to do? Like, oh, it was actually, we went over to a friend of ours house who had gotten it, and we played Nintendo Land, and there was like a ghost hunt game that's 4-player, which is or 5-player. It's actually really well designed and really good, which is actually a play on this old Pac-Man design that they did in the GameCube era, which is pretty cool. But that's the only good one in that whole bunch. But we so we got it just for that, and it was just like this thing where I was like, oh, I've got to fucking hook this up. Like, I don't want to do it. Like, that was the thing that was keeping me from doing it. Like, that was the number one thing where like, is this even going to be worth hooking it up to the TV and having to have to use a cord? Like, that's a pain in the ass. And that's the sad. I just don't know if this is my life or if this is more people's lives. Like, no. I stayed up until the early morning to get a Wii, right, on launch.
Yeah.
And I did the exact same thing with the GameCube. And like, this is the first time I didn't care. I didn't care with Zelda, and I didn't care with the system. It's just like, oh no. Like, I just don't... I worry that I'm turning into like some curmudgeon, you know? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the guy who was like, the original Pokemon was the best, you know? Like, I don't want to be that guy, but like, it's just gotten to the point where you better do something fucking new for me to care.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. That completely.
And it's getting sad. It's getting sad to the point where like, a game that, you know, 2 guys made in a few months, like Hotline Miami or something like that, will hold my attention from start to finish the whole day through, and I will get more joy out of that than anything that I pay $60 for years to come.
Well, frankly, I think
like,
that's why a lot of people like Binding of Isaac so much. I mean, I think a lot of us are getting to be like, you know, Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb, where you just been around so long and played so many games that a new Battlefield comes out and you're just groaning, and then like Skylanders come out and you're just like, oh, it's something new. Are there any?
Yeah, I guess.
Or go ahead.
Yeah, I do worry. I definitely worry. I even talked to Danielle about this. It's like, am I getting older? Like, people are buying these games. Like, I mean, I can't be the only one who's just like, ugh. But it really is, and I think a lot of it does have to do with the recession and everything else of people like, you know, large companies having to really play it safe in order to stay afloat. Like,
Zynga.
Yeah, like, yeah, well, it's a lot of stuff like that. It's just like, no one's going to take a risk because then it means the company goes under. So, you know, when that situation's happening, you're not going to get much. But the cool thing is it doesn't affect independence, and in fact, it makes them look great.
Yeah.
But like I've always said, like, there is no reason why 2 kids, in quotes, 2 kids, you know, that didn't go to college and didn't have any real experience in doing whatever, should beat these experts, these big money, big business experts at their own game for a half of a teeny fraction of the budget involved. Like, you're gonna put fucking millions of $16-17 million into a game? Why isn't it good? What the fuck is like, I go looking to the fucking Game Informer magazine and I see games that get 3s and I'm like, I know this had a budget of multiple millions of dollars. Like, it's harder. It seems like it's harder to make a game that gets a 3 than a game that gets a 7. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's getting sad. No, it's definitely so prevalent in today's gaming world.
Yeah, I do these people, like, right now, since it's the end of the year, everybody's like, what are the games you played during the year? And it's like, well, the 3 games that stand out are Spelunky, you know, Hotline Miami, and Dear Esther. Those are the 3 games. And I don't want to come off like, look at me, I'm so indie, I play indie. Like, it's not my fault. I'm not making myself look like an idiot here. It's all the you people. It's all the mainstream. Like, games, I'll love them. You know, I love playing games.
Someone out there is writing an article right now that's title is the quote, Edmund McMillen, "I'm so indie, I play only indie games."
So yeah, it's the consumer's fault who goes out and buys, you know, Black Ops and makes it the top-selling game of the year.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true, but
like, I play Black Ops. My wife play it, and yeah, but like, that just goes to show, like, just give me a new fucking shooter, please. Give me something new that I can play with my wife, where we go and we kill people. That's easy to do and burns away some time. It's like I'm playing Call of Duty knowing that there are better games that in the past that have come out, but, you know, they're not new. And I know I'm playing the same goddamn game that I played last year, but I'm still having fun because I'm playing it with her. And it's not my fault that they don't make good new games.
Have you played Walking Dead?
I haven't played Walking Dead. I saw a few videos, and the videos didn't sell me, so I didn't try it.
It's all story based, but it's surprisingly fun with 2 people, which is why I brought it up. My girlfriend and I played it, and we're like, you know, we switched the control around, and we're yelling at each other like, "No, tell him this," because you get like a timer.
Yeah, I definitely, like, I was really looking forward to, so we played through Resident Evil 5, which isn't a great game unless you play it co-op, and then it's fun. Well, I mean, I think it's a good rule of thumb, like, any game with co-op should be good, you know, like, it should. Like, it's not that hard to make a fun co-op game, I think. But we were both really looking forward to 6, and I didn't even buy it because I read such horrible things.
Ugh.
And I just wanted a game to play. I don't know, but there's stuff too. Like, I was looking up stuff for co-op and just multiplayer stuff like that. And there's like this mod called DayZ.
We interviewed Dean Hall, and he really liked XCOM. He's the creator of DayZ.
Yeah, like, on paper and from the video. So I could never get the fucking mod to work. Because I'm either retarded or it's just the hardest thing in the world to do.
It is.
But I bought goddamn real games, and I tried my best to, like, mod it, and ended up, like, I just feel like an old person at this point. I just couldn't do it. And I was so frustrated too, because I can tell you right now that game's good by just the design alone. Like, but I heard that, aren't they making an actual full-fledged game?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But I think
so. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Definitely.
I want more. I want more stuff like that. I want more stuff that's just like, dude, I've been playing video games for 22 years plus, 23 years. Like, I know how to play them. Like, just give me something hard. Like, give me more of a challenge. Give me something different. Like, yeah.
I agree.
I apologize if I have already asked this, but are there any AAA companies, any other ones that you can think of that you think get it right?
I did play through. I played through Borderlands with Tommy, and it was. I thought it was better than the first one. They did some things right. I mean, for the most part, it became like a let's get the best weapons and that sort of stuff too. But I ended up like making more of a challenge for myself, where I was like, okay, I'm an assassin. I just want to try to do melee, so because it was harder, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it definitely could have been. I don't know. I mean, let's see. I mean, I like a lot of what Bethesda's done. Like, I really liked the Fallout remake, which is surprising me because I thought I was going to hate it. Because I'm like, there's no way they can come close. But they did. They came pretty damn close. Not all the way. I still think the original Fallouts are better because I'm an elitist indie snob. But, I think they did a pretty good job. I'm actually really looking forward to the Wasteland sequel. Really looking forward to that. It's cool to see like industry veterans go indie. That's definitely cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, not really. No, like recently there's absolutely nothing, mainstream wise, company wise, that has even turned my head. There's sometimes where I'll read something and I'll think that the game's a different way, and then let down when it's not at all the way I thought it was. But.
All right, so we're going to take a moment to answer some questions from the chat room. I saw a few good ones in there.
All right, give me a second. Let me grab the water real quick.
Yeah, no problem.
We get maybe some like intermission music or.
Boop, dun, dun. I already finished the water.
Because Edmund needs a snack.
But don't you wait a minute, because he will be right back.
Oh, nice, man.
That was good thinking on your feet.
High five.
All right.
By the way, keep this. Okay.
All right. So a few questions from the chat. Lustopotamus asks if you're thinking about including a scutole effect for spiders in the remake.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yes.
Cool. There you go, Bustopotamus.
I hate the leaping spiders.
Twinfinite
Yeah, there.
exclusive.
Let's see here. 17 Wizards asks, how important is frame rate stability for the Rebirth?
Oh, it's not going to be an issue. Like,
yeah.
I guess it's a technical thing, so not everybody gets it. But like Flash sucks. So for frame rate, like when I'm trying to do a bunch of complicated things on the screen, like the way that they do things, especially in ActionScript 2, which doesn't really support a lot of the accelerators, it's just bogging your computer down, and that's why it's shitty. Like, there's absolutely no reason a game like Isaac, that looks like Isaac, should ever drop below a perfect frame rate. But we did it in Flash, so it's a piece of shit. But
for lack of a better word,
the remake's not in Flash. It's their totally new engine. It should be perfect on every platform. It should work on old computers. There's absolutely nothing that we're trying to do that should be any kind of system hog at all. It should run perfect, and that's high priority. Like,
that's good.
You don't even know. Like when I was in development with Isaac in the early stages, and we were actually trying to like figure out what can we release this or whatever. It ran so poorly that I said, no, I can't release this. This is embarrassing. And Tommy actually did help work on the game. So Tommy was living with me for like a month of the development, but I had already started it with Florian, and he was like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with like taking it away from him. So you finish it, it's your thing. But he still helped. And he actually helped raise the frame rate to what it's at now, because it was running so poorly before. Like, you don't even know. Like, if you think it runs bad now, it ran terrible before. But yeah, it's very cringeworthy for me to see like somebody do a Let's Play or something and see the frame rate drop, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah,
it's just totally unacceptable. And I wish I didn't do it in Flash, but you got to work with what limitations you have, and yeah, not going to be an issue. That's one of the number one things. Like, I would love to be able to do this remake, because then everybody can play how I intended it, with no... I can actually be bullet hell legitimately without, having to worry about fucking you over because I'm lagging the screen down. But I mean, at most, I've seen some Satan fights that run at like 10 frames a second where it's actually a bonus.
Yeah. I've had that happen to me before. Actually, I have a question. Do you think this game's going to replace the current Binding of Isaac? as like, do you think the veterans will go to the remake now?
Yes. Well, I mean, that's my goal, right? Like,
Yeah.
I really want my number one priority is to make sure that I want everybody who played the game and liked it. I want them to have a reason to play it again.
Awesome.
So that's my number one. I want to give you enough there to make it feel like, you know, like you're playing the game all over again, but it feels fresh and you want to continue. Like there's gonna be a lot there, I think.
Right.
I hope.
G Money Gangster 3, everybody watch out. He asks, were the combos like Polyphemus and Brimstone, Polyphemus and Mom's Knife intentional? And that's the only question.
There's a point with Wrath of the Lamb where, and I think I talked about this too in my postmortem, where it got to the point where the like probabilities of combinations were impossible to test completely.
Sure.
And so I had no idea what was going to happen. Even with like the original game, which is, I really like this design where it's like you kind of put a lot of stuff into effect and you're surprised by the outcome yourself. Like I remember the first time I got like Wiggle Worm or something, and then I threw like Bob's Rotten Head and realized it wiggled. And I'm like, whoa, didn't realize that was going to happen. But, awesome. But even stuff like, you know, like the Ipecac coming back at you and killing you.
That's
hysterical. Like the tears and all that stuff too. Yeah, like all that stuff is just a sweet surprise. Some of it I knew was going to happen, and some of it I didn't, and some of it I fixed after the fact, and some of it I left in because it was fun. So yeah, like
the Ipecac problems.
Yeah, that was
so funny.
Yeah,
Keith's got Polyphemus and technology, and it's fucking insane. I've never seen this before. It's like a huge lightning bolt across the screen every time he shoots. GamerGuy09 asks, in Rebirth, what balancing changes are you thinking about making with the overpowered/underpowered items such as Lemon Mishap or Mom's Pad?
I don't know how much I should say. Lemon Mishap, that was actually another technical issue where I wanted the pull to stay there for a really long time, but it would lag the frame rate if there was a lot of guys on screen, so we didn't want it to like that flashing to continue, so we had to cut it short. So, you know, it'll stay there for a lot longer. That's a good balance. I might actually even lower the recharge, which I think is 3, isn't it? Or maybe it's 2. What's the recharge on Lemon Mishap?
I don't know. Let me check the wiki.
Anyway, I might lower it if it's 3 to make it a bit better. But yeah, I'm going to balance things slightly. But I actually do think it's important for a game like this that has, you know, luck and random generation in it to have, you know, shitty items and awesome items.
Yeah.
Because it's more about you utilizing what you have. You got to use what you have. And if the only spacebar item that you get in your whole game is Lemon Mishap, guess what? You're going to use it. Like, you're going to use it, and it's going to do something for you. And I like the idea of forcing them to use it. If it's bad, if it's good, if it's whatever, like, you got to use what you have at your disposal, because that's all you're going to get at that point in time. I think that's cool, and it's just one of those things where you can't make this game that just has all the good stuff, because the good stuff doesn't seem as good unless it's balanced out by some bad stuff. So there's always going to be shitty items, but I do want to make some of the shittier items a bit better. OP items, I don't know. I think I went overboard with flight in the expansion, but I might be able to just simply balance that by adding no new flight items in the but we'll see.
Cool. Crystal Flamingo writes in and says, "Hey Ed, I always wondered if when you get ideas for characters, do you run with the first idea you get and then elaborate on that, or do you think deeply and intricately of what you make? I think your characters are one of the biggest things to appeal to me and would just like to know."
Yeah, I know who that is. That's Crystal.
You know who that is?
She's a bitch!
I didn't want to say anything, but I thought the exact same thing.
So the question was.
Do you think about your characters, or do they come as they go?
Okay. Let's see. What do I do with the characters? I think like it's kind of surprising. So like if you ever went through my like old sketchbooks and stuff for games that never happened, because there's a lot of games that just fizzle out, you'll see this kind of reoccurring theme. Like I've made the Duke of Flies a few times in many different ways. I've done Gemini a few times in many different ways, and there's just certain things where it's like I really want to do a conjoined twin character where one of the conjoined twins is little, like and like fetus style, and it's still attached. Like I like that. Like there's just certain things that I think are cool. Like my really old games, there's a game called Weltling, and the idea behind Weltling was that you're like this little baby bird kind of creature who like eats maggots and stuff, and eventually gets really big. But as it grows, the parasites kind of inside of it eventually take over its body and start kind of pulling its strings, and it becomes this kind of like host, like an empty shell to this host of parasites that actually control this giant thing. And that's the foundation of the Duke of Flies. Like that's where that came from, and that's something I made, 15 years ago or whatever on paper. Like, and there's just certain things that I really liked from when I was little, and you can find them in the comics. Like the dead baby comes from my comics. Like that's where that design came from. Like just having this little dead blue character that has X for eyes. It's essentially a dead baby. I don't know. I just fall on these things, and as I think about them more, as I draw them, they seem to develop a character, and I kind of run with it. Like with mew-genics, this is the first time I actually get to develop characters that have more personality, I guess you could say, because they actually talk and stuff. But like with Meat Boy and stuff like that, I develop the character as I'm working through. Like I don't have, much like the game designs, I don't have that much of a solid idea of what this is. Like with Dr. Fetus, when Tommy and I were working on, like I didn't even flesh out Dr. Fetus in the original game, like the Flash game. It's like, I don't know, he's a fetus in a jar. He's like, oh, I have no idea what his personality. He's an asshole. He's a bad guy. That's what. But like when me and Tommy started working on him more for the remake or for Super Meat Boy, his character formed more around like us kind of joking about like how would Dr. Fetus approach this. Like when we made his Twitter, like who would he follow? He'd follow like some celebrity girls or porn stars or whatever, and trying to like convince them that he's hot stuff. And then it goes into the whole like he's kind of like maybe there's something weird about his sexuality where he's very homophobic for very obvious reasons, and maybe going on there, and all this stuff that just didn't make it in the game. Like I can't, that doesn't. I don't think that comes through in the game, but over time you just throw stuff back and forth where you're just thinking like, how would this person react in this situation, character-wise, and you just have a this character that kind of makes itself over time, base it off of different people and stuff like that. But,
I have to give a shout out here to Creepy Stare, who has a great idea. Binding of Isaac Rebirth Challenge Run. Life gave you lemons. All you get is a mishap.
All you get is no item rooms, no boss items, nothing. Just mishap.
That's a challenge.
We have to point out that Keith just beat the chest and killed Blue Baby with lemon mishap.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Well, I'm also extremely overpowered. I just picked up Lemon Mishap in the treasure chest room, and I said, I'm going to kill him with this.
There you go. Yeah, it's crazy how many... I mean, I guess you just get good, right? But, like, it's just crazy how many people... Like, okay, one of the craziest things with this game that made me feel really good about it was, of course, Danielle playing it, and she played it so much. But to having a game that, like, is as hard as Isaac, and I know you guys probably don't think it's hard anymore. You obviously just beat the hardest fucking,
suck.
OP and whatever. Like that's the thing. Like there's a crazy learning curve where you're like, I remember when Danielle couldn't beat Gertie. It's like, fuck Gertie, I'm gonna die. And that's how Gertie's a breeze now. Like Gertie's a breeze, Mom's a breeze. Like it's this kind of inchworm effect where you just get better. You learn the tells of the character, or, the bosses, and how to use the different items and whatever else, and you just blow through it. And at this point, yeah, there's so many people out there who just seem like there are people out there who get like 100+ runs without dying. It's like, what? Made this game hard. Fuck happened?
I've had a lot of people asking in the chat, do you like the Demon/Dark Souls games?
Oh, I played Demon Souls, and it was too hard. I think mostly because I didn't understand how the game worked. And then I played Dark Souls with a better understanding of how the game worked and how you kind of grind your way up.
Mm-hmm.
And I did really like it. And I didn't get... I got to the gargoyles on the tower, or the chapel, or whatever it is, the 2 gargoyles that you fight.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in the game where it wasn't that they were too hard, but it was that it took too long for me to make it from the closest checkpoint to they all.
Yeah.
Like, all I want to do is learn your tells. Like, that's all I want, but I don't know it enough, and I am punished by this, like, 6-minute walk to where to fight them, and I stopped from there. But I really did like it. I definitely think it could be greatly improved in a few different ways. But I thought it was mostly just cool because it was punishingly hard, and I wanted to see what was next. So I had to get better, and I like that about a lot of games. But
awesome. Me and Keith are big Dark Souls. I've got like over 200 hours in that game. Too much.
Yeah, and it got
God,
boring.
it's just boring too.
So I think that'll do it for our little session with you. Maybe we'll ask for a mew-genics exclusive.
It'll be, honestly, I'm really looking forward to finally doing interviews with Tommy again, because it seems like it's been ages.
That's
since,
awesome.
Yeah, he's great on interviews too.
He's so funny.
Yeah, he just moved. He just moved to Seattle.
Oh,
I live in Seattle.
I think he's actually officially moved into his new house today, I believe. So, yeah,
that's exciting. Maybe we'll get you on here again about mew-genics in the future.
Can you hear Tammy? Can you hear my cat in the background? She's just crying for no reason.
Put her on.
Yeah, let's get a word from Tammy.
I don't know if she'll meow, but I'll go get her.
All right.
Tammy's head. G Money Gangster on the ball there. Yeah, Tammy's head.
Yeah, Guppy too.
I always see
That's fantastic.
Danielle tweeting pictures of Guppy, and I'm like, oh god, I've played as that cat before.
I found parts of him all over a basement.
Oh, okay. Okay, she ran away from me, but I know what she's doing.
Yeah,
She's upstairs. She's upstairs crying at the bedroom door because she wants Tammy time, which is this exclusive time. So Tammy is the Sphinx cat from the movie.
Yeah.
We named her after Tommy for obvious reasons, but she's kind of like this like uppity bitch, and she needs like her own attention time. Like, she needs to be the only one in the room. None of the other cats can come in the room, or she'll get really upset and leave. And she thinks it's Tammy time, so she's upstairs crying at the door, like we're in there, wanting to get in for Tammy time, and it is not Tammy time. I'll tell you that.
So what does Danielle think about you virtually killing your cats and putting pieces of them in the basement of this game we're all playing?
Well, we only kill. Well, I guess we do kill. There's 2 dead ones, huh?
Guppy and Tammy.
I think she's fine with it. I think she was the one who she was like, "Oh, we got Cricket. So we have 4 cats now."
Right.
And she was the one. She was like, "We gotta put Cricket in there somewhere." And I was like, "Nah, it's fine."
Maybe we'll see Cricket in
Cricket's
Rebirth.
the good one. Cricket's too good to be killed. We only put the weird cats in the game. Like Guppy's a fucking weirdo.
Will the cats be
That cat's
mew-genics?
Well, in a way, there are so many that they have to be, technically.
Did I read there's like trillions or something?
I think, well, there are actually, we did the number wrong. There are way more than that. But
Really?
I think it said like 12 sextillion or something. Beyond what most people can even comprehend. But yeah, when we're ready, we can definitely come on and talk all about it. I think it's a few months away from being ready to really talk in depth about stuff yet.
Cool.
Well, we'd love to have you back on here.
Yeah, if you ever want to come and talk about Eugenics, Super Meat Boy the game, the secret undisclosed game, you're always welcome back.
Really anything.
Really anything. Yeah.
Talk live.
We don't even need to be here.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me on, and I hope I answered all the questions correct.
Oh no, you did great.
My final answer.
It was real wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Stream, we'll see you later. Have a great night. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you hit that follow button.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll have more stuff like this, so if you guys wouldn't mind following, that would be